we're really more about, putting ourselves out on the edge out there and just kind of, walk uncharted territory and, take risks. I mean, we're okay with that.
And if you don't want to answer this for political reasons, I understand. You can just say next question, or I played the fifth, whichever one you want to do. But with limitations on these things, right? You can only make a paddle spin this much. You can only have it deflect this hard, right? Does that limit your technological advances? Like, does that put a cap on what the things that you can do to make a paddle like the latest and greatest?
And man, it seems to be just the right blend. The feedback we're getting from our pro players, the feedback we're getting from just all the play tests that we did at the recreational level, and then with the higher level players, and it's been extremely positive. So,
what's up, guys? It's Ben here with the 00 Start podcast. We're here with our guest, CEO and founder of Gearbox Pickleball, Rafael Filippini. I was trying to think of how many times you've been on this show, Rafael. How many times
I believe
have you
our
been
third
on?
or fourth.
I know it's a minimum of 3.
Yeah, it's either 3 or 4, Ben. Yes.
Yeah. I can't remember if it's 4. I thought it was 4. I will go back and check just to make sure. But either way, you've been on this more than anybody ever. So thank you for putting up with me 3 or 4 different times. That's impressive.
Well, no, thank you for having me. And it's always a pleasure, Ben. So, glad to be back. And thank you for having me a third or fourth time as well. Yeah.
Well, anytime you come out with a new paddle series, we're going to have you, because your episodes have been the most watched, the most listened to, and the paddles have been so incredibly popular. But I think they just love listening to you talk, because it is evident the passion and the time and the process that you've put into your paddles, and it just kind of flows through the speakers. So people love hearing you talk. But before we get to the new paddle series that you're launching, what have you been up to? Have you been able to hit the pickleball at all? Do you get to play at all other than like outside of work? Do they let you out of the lab?
Actually, I try to schedule my work around the play and the lab time, right? So they're both related. And, I do have to, I guess, do my CEO responsibilities, or, the office stuff, which is probably my least favorite, but when I'm back in the lab and playing, that's where I have a good time. So I do get to play, and I try to schedule my time, around the lab and playtime, and that's where I have the most fun and really enjoy what I do. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Is it not? I always think it's funny when people are like, "Hey, do you want to play test a paddle, or do you want to hit a paddle?" And I'm like, "Yeah, how about Tuesday at noon?" And they're like, "Ben, I'm working." I'm like, "Yeah, me too. Tuesday at noon." Does that not work for you?
That is a challenge. The nice thing, I'm getting up in age a little bit, so I do find a few more friends that have a little more time. Maybe they're semi-retired and things, and we get to play. So there's a benefit of getting older if if we look at this in a positive way.
There's a lot of benefits of getting older. It's a blessing. It's a blessing to get older, right?
Yeah.
So
but anyway, definitely having fun.
Yeah, sure. Well, and it's easy to do that in this sport too, because I don't foresee the fun, the brightness, the energy of this sport fading anytime soon. I think 5 years ago, everybody thought it was like a fad. And now everybody who said that is hoping it wasn't on video, because they want to deny that they've ever said that, because it is so much not a fad, and it is becoming more and more a legitimate, true sport that I'm hearing things like, obviously MLP, PPA, big names getting into the sport, but I'm hearing like Olympics and everything too now. So it's right. It has remained fun for years and years.
I agree with you. I don't think the sport is going anywhere anytime soon. And we're all looking forward to, what the future is in the next 5 years. I have been hearing about the Olympics as well. Lots of countries are participating. We're getting out there because obviously we're looking at distribution in other areas and around the world. And we see the growth, and the excitement is everywhere, Ben. And you and I have been in other sports, and boy, just the amount of fun that we have here, the energy, and everyone's positive because they're doing something they love. And when you're in a situation like that, I mean, you're only having fun, right? So that's exciting. So I'm looking
Well,
forward
speaking of
to,
things,
10 to 20 years on that, Ben. Yeah, sorry.
well, let's not get carried away. I am not looking forward to 20 years from now.
No?
I'm looking
Okay.
forward to lunch. Let's get there. I
Okay.
don't want to,
All
let's not skip ahead 2 decades.
right. Okay. We'll take it one day at a time then.
I like that. All right. Speaking of things that you love, and I don't know if there's anybody that loves building and creating and engineering paddles more than you. It just seems like every time we talk to you, do you have conversations about paddles that are less than an hour? There's no way.
No, that's really hard. Because one thing, just we're talking about it, and even when I'm sitting down with our engineers or people that we develop in our labs and stuff, as we're coming up with or maybe refining an idea, I'm already like two or three other ideas ahead, and we're like, guys, let's just scratch that one and jump to this. Or like, what are you doing, man? Let's finish this one first, and then, okay. So I got to kind of pull back, but it is exciting because one thing just leads to another, especially when you're in a room with people that are just talking about the same thing, or you're all energetic about it. That synergy just creates more and more. And what's really cool with me is I'm not afraid to try things, and a lot of people that build things, they want to have an outcome, or they kind of plan it out and make sure everything works. We do that too, but most of the time we're like, look, let's build it, see what happens, let's test it, and then go from there, right? Let's learn. And so yeah, I mean, it's fun. We like taking risks, we like pushing the envelope, and yeah, it keeps us on the edge, and always learning new things. So definitely exciting for sure.
Well, let's talk about it, because you have created something that's outside of the norm of what we're expecting from Gearbox. Obviously, we saw the Pro Power series that was fantastic, and the Pro Control. Those things kind of blew the lid off of anything that we've seen in the recent years from Gearbox. Now you're creating something that's similar but different at the same time, right? You're bringing in a lot of the aspects of what the Pro Power was, but you're creating something that now is probably a lot more universal, and you might attract even more players because it's more universal paddle. But I don't want to. I'm trying not to say it because I want you to talk about it. But tell us about your brand new paddle.
Yeah. So the name of the brand new paddle is our Pro Ultimate, and it's a 16 millimeter paddle. And the reason we designed it, and the reason why we're bringing it out at this time, it is a paddle that is a response to the feedback from the consumers, from the players, the pros, and just people who came across it, the reviewers. And we listen very carefully as to what they say. They love, obviously, everybody loved the power. It's the most powerful paddle that's legal out in the marketplace. So that's a positive. Some people, right now the industry is trying to figure out where we want to be with power, and so at the same time, we're listening to that as well. So I said, okay, let's build a paddle that still has a lot of power. And some of the requests that we heard, if we could improve the 14, a larger sweet spot, more control around the kitchen, better control when returning the ball. Some people were having a hard time when they return, flying the ball or hitting the ball long. And then also resets from mid court, and when somebody attacked, you just want softer hands. So they were having a hard time. A few people, not everybody. It just depends how you use the paddle. There's individuals, or there are individuals who don't change the grip in terms of how hard they grip the paddle, and we understand that. Now, if you're one of the players that can have soft hands, switch your grip in between your stroke, then the Pro Power paddle is not an issue for you. But there's a large group of players who just want to swing the same way all the time. So what we did with the Pro Ultimate is created a paddle that, regardless on your grip or whatever it is, we actually allow the paddle to do that work for you. So essentially, we created a very powerful all court or all sport, not all sport, all court paddle, right? An all around paddle that is going to give you the dinking ability. It's going to give you a very large sweet spot, very forgiving. The returns, you don't have to think about your grip. You just return it like you normally do, and the paddle is going to do that work for you. However, when you're ready, you get that setup. We still have that punch power, and if you want to drive the ball from the baseline, that power is still there. It's reduced slightly, but it's still enough where you're going to see the difference, and that's great. I mean, so that to us is an improvement to capture, like you said, more people. And our hope is that people look into our SST technology that lasts much longer than anything else that's out there. It doesn't have the edge guard on it, so that's a plus as well. And then just the playability. And the other thing that we included with the Pro Ultimate is the feel. So we actually increase the core density by how we pressurize it internally, and then we also manipulated some of the materials inside. So when you actually hit this paddle, the feel is just extremely plush. Very little feedback in terms of vibration, and when you hit the center or closer to the edges, you can't really distinct whether you hit the center or the edge of the paddle or close to the edge. So therefore, that feels like a larger sweet spot, keeps the ball straight. And so really worked really hard on this paddle to bring you just a great overall paddle with the power that people want in today's game, and then the control that you would expect from a high level paddle like this one.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Is it's like a power paddle, which I don't care what type of player you are, you need power out of a paddle. Like that's something that you always need. If somebody floats a ball and you have a setup and you want to hit a winning shot, you need the power. But one thing that people could maybe have said about the last series paddles, even though they're incredible and everybody seems to love them, is if you don't like thinner paddles and that's not your style, that they didn't have you might not find a spot with the SST paddles of the past. So you listened to the players, right? I mean, I'm assuming you heard yes. The feedback, and you listened to the players, and you're giving the people what they want.
Absolutely. That's a good point. So 16 millimeter paddles right now seem to be the sweet spot. And ever since the industry went to more of a Gen 2 and even, some now Gen 3 paddles, really what that means is now they placed a perimeter frame around a honeycomb paddle, which kind of stiffens the paddle overall. So that's really what a Gen 2 paddle is, right? And or the Gen 3. So by doing that, we create. It seems like before, when you talked about a 16 millimeter power, it strictly meant a softer, more control paddle, and a 14 or 12 meant more power. In today's game, that's not necessarily true in the way brands are designing paddles, because once you put that perimeter, you can stiffen the frame of a 16 millimeter paddle to give it more power than in the past. So anyway, I believe that the 16 millimeter thickness of on the core, the thickness of the paddle is more of the sweet spot. I would say probably 60% of the people like that, and then they're divided between either a thicker or a thinner paddle, depending on the performance they're looking for. But 16 right now seems to be the sweet spot, and we did listen to that, and we brought out that 16 and put a little bit more control over our 14 Pro Power elongated. And man, it seems to be just the right blend. The feedback we're getting from our pro players, the feedback we're getting from just all the play tests that we did at the recreational level, and then with the higher level players, and it's been extremely positive. So it's a paddle that you can pick up. You go to the court within a game or two, you're dialed in, and this paddle's performing and doing what you need it to do.
Well, I'm excited to. I have not yet tried it. I know I'm just gonna love. I just have a feeling I'm gonna love it because I like 16 millimeter paddles a lot, but I also love
Okay.
the Pro Power paddles. So to me, like the blend of the two are gonna be the sweet spot in my opinion. What player do you foresee using that? Because I could see some you always think like, oh, it's a power paddle, and not necessarily this one, but let's say the Pro Power or whatever is
Mm-hmm.
that's a power paddle. You don't need to be a power player to play with it, because if you need extra power, then there's you could be a touch player and you want extra power. Well, there. Who do you foresee using the latest paddle?
Well, one of the biggest challenges we had two specific players, Michelle Esquivel and Wyatt. Wyatt is a player who was just dialed into. I'm sorry, Wyatt Stone. I didn't say his last name, but he was dialed into the honeycomb paddle. Same with Michelle. She's like, no, I love the feel, love the feel. So at Gearbox, we've always been trying to mimic the honeycomb feel with our SST core, because the core is superior, but the feel is very, it was very different in the past. Now they resemble one another. And so what we're trying to do is convert more people from honeycomb into our SST core. Why? Because the SST core is going to last just so much longer. You can extend the life of a paddle 2 to 3 times with the SST core compared to a honeycomb core. They just fall apart. And then in heat or cold, the SST core behaves exactly the same. Where a honeycomb paddle with heat, it'll soften up. When it's cold, it plays more brittle. So all those elements go away with this particular technology, which is our SST. It's a carbon fiber rib structure that runs through the inside. So, from that standpoint, the value and performance of SST and particularly this new Ultimate, we are targeting and hopefully looking to capture that traditional honeycomb player and bring them into SST so they can experience that durability, the performance, and the benefits that this technology brings to the game.
That's cool. That's something I didn't know that. So that's really cool though. So the SST is a superior core, but it was a different feel. And I think everybody would agree that it just has a little bit of a different feel. Now you're that thicker 16 millimeter, still SST, but you're getting it to feel a lot softer, to have a lot more feel to it, but still have the superiority in different categories.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, our traditionally, and it's not that we couldn't build it in the past. We were just crossing paths with the game. So when we first launched SST, it was very powerful. And, in 2016, I believe, the game was really slow, lots of dinking and, a lot of touch. In fact, you were taught to just use your shoulder and dink, with a more, slight angle with your arm and, just get the ball over the net, and today's game is so different. But people are still used to that feel of the honeycomb paddle, right? And then we slowed our paddle down with the CX14, the H and the E, and this game sped up. And they're like, "Oh no, this one has got too much. It's too soft, too much control." So then I think finally we did a really good job marrying the two with the Pro Power series. We caught on to the power and then the control, and the feel was there, much better, but maybe 80% of where we want it to be. Now we're right there with the feel of honeycomb and the performance, the dwell time, how long a ball stays on the paddle face, and then even if when you miss hit, having that feel be very uniform throughout the face of the paddle. And I think putting all of those elements together, that's what this Ultimate is about. So when you play with it, you're going to find yourself that it's just a very easy paddle to adapt to. And like I said, within a few games, you're going to You're not going to miss a step, but in terms of feel and performance, but what you are going to gain is the power if you need it for punch or drives, the additional spin. I mean, we're getting spin rates of over 2,200 on this paddle, depending on who's, hitting, but that's very high. I mean, anything over 2,000, boy, you're in the top category, right? So if you're 2,200 and our grit, when you actually touch the face, it doesn't feel extremely gritty. It's just the surface. We stay at 35 on the RT and around 25 on the RZ, and the max is 40. So we don't even want to get close to the upper end. I mean, we don't want attention from any of the associations, right? So hey, go test that paddle. It's we think it's over. Like, no, we're just staying clear of that, right? And maintaining in that 35. But we're getting these awesome spin rates due to our technology, not necessarily just a rougher surface. So the core, the way the ball stays on the paddle and everything else. And that's really what we want people to understand, that this technology, this performance of the paddle and the what we have done with, there's actually 4 structures that work together as one in our SST structures. All of those are working together to give you just this extreme performance, and it's very durable. Which we can maybe touch on. I think the industry is going to require us brands, and they're pushing for that, the UPA, USAPA as well, and they want the manufacturers to step up their game in terms of performance and also durability and quality, which I champion that as well, because for Gearbox, that's kind of the lane we've always been in, and I've always said I felt many brands, it's like my son building a paddle in the garage kind of a thing. I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful to anyone, but a lot of times that's the way I saw the paddles, right? I mean, they were essentially they're just these panels that were being glued with a bumper, and then some had like a glued even a like a plumbing cap on the bottom, and then you'd see pieces of wood or glued on, and now they've gotten a lot better, don't get me wrong, but it's still, I think, technology, it's just beginning, and I think in the future we're going to see these paddles really evolve into just great structures and engineering, well engineered structures that are going to perform better. And we like to think that we're sort of leading that, in that area, and with our technologies and our patented stuff. And now that we've married the playability, the technology, and the quality all in one, man, I think people, when they experience this paddle, they're going to really be thrilled.
There's a question I want to ask that I've asked you, I think, the last two, but I want to go back to something that you just said, is with and if you don't want to answer this for political reasons, I understand. You can just say next question, or I played the fifth, whichever one you want to do. But
all right,
I always have this like internal thought, and like with limitations on these things, right? You can only make a paddle spin this much. You can only have it deflect this hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that limit your technological advances? Like, does that put a cap on what the things that you can do to make a paddle like the latest and greatest?
No, I actually, I'm waiting for that. So that way, once we know what the rules are, then we can start working on developing products that, so if they say, okay, hey, the limit on spin is 2,000, right, or 2,200, 2,100, whatever you want to put it, and the speed, or this PB core, the coefficient of restitution is going to be at 40% of your initial speed, and then the exit speed. Great, as long as we know that, that is fine. But also, I would request that give us some leeway on materials. There's some old rules in there that they'll say, oh, you can't have materials that are spring-like, which are very vague, and they don't really speak to, in the way I interpret that rule is, a spring-like material is not necessarily the core or even the paddle, because the paddle itself, by definition, is a spring. So if you're going to take that literally and say you can't have a spring, then, you would have to delist every paddle that's ever been made from day one. So I think that rule was more specific to adding like a sponge-like material to the surface, like a ping pong paddle, right? That has a rubber, a couple millimeters or 3-4 millimeter rubber pad on the surface. I think that's what that rule was intended for. So as long as I am fine capping spin, like again, speed and everything else, but give us more freedom to work on expanding the sweet spot, making a more uniform hitting surface, and don't keep this monolithic sort of structure and this deflection test that really, to me, it doesn't show you anything. It just shows how rigid you can make a paddle, but I don't necessarily think. Well, I know for sure that deflection doesn't equal more speed, and sometimes it could be less speed. So just be more open into how we are allowed to build paddles, as long as we don't exceed the limits that you set. I think, I welcome that, because then we can have a lot of fun in terms of what we build and where we go with it, which I think would make better paddles as well too.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I love that. I think you guys too, of the many vendors that we carry, I can think of a bunch, but you guys would do really well. Like you're so innovative, and you're always thinking, it seems like one step ahead, or even like, oh, if these guys are doing this, I'm almost not going to do it just because these guys are all doing it. So you have that paddle. If you want one of those paddles, like there's a bunch of them, we're going to do something different. Right. That's what it seems like Gearbox's MO has been since day one.
Well, it is, because to make, a honeycomb structure, or a very standard, even Gen 2, even a Gen 3, again, I'm going to say they're basic structures, and they're not fun. There's nothing challenging about creating a paddle like that. And yeah, you can make them, one better than the other, but really, if you get into that arena, boy, there's not a lot to really differentiate your brand from, somebody else. So what do? You either start competing on price, so you lower the price, or you have these great marketing campaigns, or you start spending money on, the best players to promote it. And they all work. They all have, positive outcomes. But for us, you're absolutely right. I think the long-term game for us is investing in technology that really drives the sport in a different direction. And when we patent the technology, so we do not, have a conflict with other brands, and everybody just kind of doing the same thing. So yeah, we like to work outside the norm. We also create, don't get me wrong, we also create paddles, but that is not our main product line. We'll do that at the mid to lower end price points, and make great products available for people. But we're really more about, putting ourselves out on the edge out there, and just kind of, walk uncharted territory, and, take risks. I mean, we're okay with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it paid off huge in the SST. Like, I think those paddles have become so darn popular. You kind of can't go to a court that doesn't have one of those out there. They're very popular across the board. You see them everywhere.
Yeah. And I think people are understanding that there is a difference with the performance. There's a difference with the structure. We don't always hit a home run 100%. We have to tweak some things, when you're going outside the box, and, you're creating new production methods, new production lines, new ways of manufacturing and all of that. We take a lot of risk. But the cool thing is, if we see something that we need to fix, we can fix it immediately and not miss a beat. So, as we continue to push, man, that's the other side. I don't think, well, why would anybody that's not in the industry see it? But it's challenging, right? When you, like, in a lab, we can create one or two pieces of, or paddles that are just phenomenal, but now go make, 50,000, 100,000 paddles the exact same way, that's a challenge, when you have just hundreds of people making them, and so many hands touching things that, that's really where that quality, the quality control, everything. So it's not only inventing the paddle, we're also inventing production lines. We're inventing new equipment and tools to keep, the production extremely consistent. And that, all that to me is just, that's my playground, and I enjoy it.
The mad scientist. The mad scientist.
I don't know about mad scientist, but it's just fun. No.
Somebody told me that from Gearbox.
Oh, really?
I can't.
Well,
maybe
they might
call
say
you
that. I don't.
Maybe they call you this behind your. Did I just
maybe?
Did I just spill something out? Yeah. Don't ask. And if you ask,
don't ask. Right?
Tell them I told you.
You didn't say it. Right.
Even though this is going to be aired, and hopefully they don't listen to it, but.
Right.
So I hear the question that I'm going to ask you every time you come out with a new series. I think
sure.
I can't remember if you answered the last time or not, because I compare it to like choosing your favorite kid. Because I know these are super close to you, and I'm not asking that, so don't say it. That would really cause a problem. But
right,
is this paddle your new favorite paddle? Is this your go-to? Is this just kind of like if I need this out of my game, I'm gonna go to it, but I still love this paddle and paddles for different reasons?
Yes, it is. To answer your question, to be very direct, yes. And I hesitated a little bit because I'm already working on the next 2 generations. So, and some of those are my favorite already. But yeah, in terms of where we are with this one, absolutely. Like, probably a year ago, this was definitely, top of my list. And that's just the way, technology is. And I'm always, by the time, one of our new paddles come out, like I've been using it or testing it or doing something with it for, almost 10 months. So it's like, for me, I'm like, all right, let's launch that one, but let's get ready for that next one, right?
New.
So like, let's go with a new one. They're like, Rafael, like, dude, calm down, right? Like, we got to launch this one first, and
it's new to everybody else.
On the market. That's right. Yeah, we're like, and I sometimes do forget about that, because we're out there and playing all the time. But yeah, I mean, all joking aside, yes, absolutely. This paddle brings everything that you'd want into the game. Very smooth paddle, very easy to use. For me personally, there is something I really like about the 14, and that's that additional power when, like you said, you get a setup. I mean, we both have a racquetball background, and our mindset is, hey, set up, put it away, dude. Like, but in pickleball, not, even if you have a setup, you don't necessarily want to put it away. You still want to play that cat and mouse game, and which is a hard thing to turn off. Coming from racquetball or more aggressive sport where we're just anytime, we want to put the ball or into rally quickly. Here, you want to play around a little bit more to just kind of extend things, and me not being, super physically fit, believe me, I want to end the rally quick. but definitely, this is my favorite paddle. If the industry was not having such an issue with power and do we tone it down, or I don't know where we're going to end up. So this is also addressing that, Ben, we're being respectful of not over pushing and not driving the industry into an area that it's irresponsible. So this paddle does bring you that power. It's at the top notch, but it's toned down just a tad to be responsible until we as a whole industry decide where we want it to be. And until that, hopefully that's in January or, sometime early next year. Once we have that, then we go on and continue. But this paddle, I would have to honestly say and I test everybody's paddle. It is by far the best paddle, ever out there. And not only just performance and playability, but from my standpoint, I look at durability, we look at quality build, the structures and everything else, the value, right? So if somebody's paying $250 plus for a paddle, that value's got to be there. You got to warrant, that fee. And I believe this paddle, just checks all the boxes for all of the above.
I can't wait to try it. I love what you said, that you're creating paddles that are innovative. They push the envelope, but you're not trying to change the dynamic of the game. You're not trying to race to the top of every chart to change the whole sport, which is, in theory, pickleball seems to be kind of a slow sport, a patient sport, and you don't want to push it. Yeah, you want to push it so there's power, and people that play with that game style can use your paddles and love them, but you don't want to push the envelope to change the dynamic of the sport. You want to stay within the lines and do what the true pickleball players want. I think a true pickleball enthusiast would appreciate that comment as much as anybody.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, we do want to be responsible there. Although there is, and I should say this, there is a positive to having a faster paddle, and that is we have, believe it or not, for our Pro Ultimate elongated, the Pro Power, we have a huge customer base that's older or young kids who just don't have the power, that by immediately picking 100%. Up this paddle, it just benefits them. They're like, oh my God, I'm competitive again. I could come out here and play. So we want that. I mean, we don't want to alienate just because, hey, this power, I understand it's more powerful, but same thing, right? I mean, let's just say, you're driving a Ferrari down the road. You could go 160, 70 miles an hour, but you're not going to do it, right? You want to be responsible. Well, not you, right? Okay. You're right. So, I mean, even though you have a Ford. Yeah, you have kids, right? Well, I mean, the analogy is you may have a tool that you can do something with, but you don't necessarily have to use it, right? To be quite frank, sure. I mean, with a wooden paddle, myself, and a lot of players could probably bring in a racquetball stroke, and you could punch anybody any day on the chest anytime, right? You get a setup. There's no way you're gonna get out of the way. You could probably even throw a ball across the net and hit somebody at will. But as a being respectful to your opponent and when you're competing, you don't just blast the ball at somebody's chest because you can. You try to move the game and all that. So I think there's etiquette, along with creating responsible equipment as well. So we have to be conscious of that and not necessarily try to drill everybody, in the chest just to win a point. That doesn't make pickleball
Is that
fun.
frowned upon?
Yeah.
Coming from racquetball, though, I mean, that's like
yes.
You upset somebody, you're getting hit. The next point, you're getting hit. It's kind of like baseball. So we definitely had to reel that back too. You had to reel that back. Like, oh, you're not supposed to hit it at him, even though you're going to win the point. I got it. Noted.
Oh, right. Yeah, and well, you see that happening on the courts, and most often, they don't invite that person back to play with that group, right? And
that's right.
So eventually, you learn one way or another. I mean, it's like when you don't find friends to play pickleball with, there must be something wrong. Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to try this thing. I think I love the Pro Power series, but I do love myself a 16 millimeter paddle. It's kind of what I gravitate towards. So I cannot wait to get this paddle on the court. Without you spilling too much info, you mentioned it. So you brought it up. So now I can bring it up. Is there anything that you can tell us without spilling too much? Because I don't want to get you in trouble. What's coming down the pipeline? What could we expect? Just vague teasers next from Gearbox.
The way I'm going to respond to that answer is the following way, manner. I believe the industry is going to shift and require more from the manufacturers, right? So more durability, more playability, and in a way challenge us to, hey, if you're going to charge over $200, you got to tell me why you're charging $200, right? So my response to you is all the way down. We're looking at taking technologies that have been on our high end, pushing those technologies down into lower price points. We're also understanding that there's going to be a limit on speed and a limit on spin. Then the next area to really focus on is feel, size of sweet spot, the ease of play for the paddle, longevity, durability, and just overall performance, right? So once a lot of times you always hear is like, well, this is a power paddle and this is a control paddle. But now here's a paddle that has both, and we're maximizing every aspect of it. So max power, max spin, max control, max size of sweet spot, very forgiving. And then also feel, right? We're also talking about how that paddle feels. So everybody's hit a paddle or a ball down near the throat of the paddle. It feels dead or it vibrates and you get a lot of feedback up near the frame, near the edges, near the corners, dead spots throughout the paddle. I think just making a very uniform, hitting surface and all of these things. I mean, that's no secret. That's been around, but actually doing it, and that's the direction I think, we're going to go. And then once they tell us what this limit on speed and spin, then we'll get there too, as well. And maybe there's some paddles that we, maximize the power and some that we maximize the control and lessen the power. So I think it's going to depend on the styles and what the consumers want. And we'll listen to that and build paddles accordingly.
Well, and you're going to build something awesome per usual. I know you're working on probably 2 years ahead of what we've seen, but we're excited for this one. Let us enjoy this for now. It's not new to you because you've been working on it day and night for the last year, but it's new to us and we love it.
Maybe we should delete that section. And by the way, Ben, this is the paddle right here. This is our new ultimate 16 millimeter, edgeless. We have the peel ply, textured surface on it in an elongated shape. Beautiful paddle, beautiful construction. And I encourage anybody, who enjoyed the Pro Power and was looking for a little more control, better feel, etc. Definitely try this. And then all of those individuals who are struggling with paddles that don't last more than a couple of months of play and they break down, look at the Gearbox technology and the playability and all the benefits. I mean, we're talking about top level power and spin numbers that are in that 2200 range, and so you've got all the benefits and the durability and great look. So yeah, thanks, Ben, for the opportunity and allowing me to kind of share my passion with everybody and you, and and this is what we do, and we have lots of fun doing it.
Well, we love hearing it, and I know all the people love hearing it because we all see the paddles, and I don't think we have 1% clue of like the passion that goes into it, especially now. I mean, you mentioned it. 10 years ago, I think paddles, for the most part, not everybody, not the major dudes in the sport, but like you said, like they were just like bang, bang, put it together, glue, done, ship it. Now, right. Every company, every of the top companies are putting some serious R&D, putting some serious time and passion into their paddles. You are like, it's obvious how much you care about it, which I think is part of the popularity of the paddles, is they know what they're getting is full passion into the product.
Yeah, I believe so. And there's a lot of brands that are working in different areas, and we're just, my background's in composites and structures, and so we work differently. We obviously got away from just the traditional honeycomb, and I'm seeing some brands trying different things, and I think that's great because the more competition we have, the better it is. I mean, we get challenged, and we learn as we go, and that's only going to make our industry better, and that's what I'm looking forward to. Just like any competitor, right? I think you don't want to be, number one and not have competition. Like your number two competitor is just so far off, you're not having fun, competing out there. Same thing for us. I think the more competition we have, we become better as a whole. So, I like it. I like competition. Yeah.
And we, as the consumer, we benefit from it because we get product that's awesome. So yes, we like it too.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's the goal. You know, that's really the end game. So yeah, I'm really excited about this paddle, and man, I can't wait for, you know, lots of people to experience it and hear more feedback to see, you know, where we need to go from here. That feedback from, you know, anybody experiencing it, positive or negative, you know, please let us know, and that way we can make improvements.
Yeah, and that's cool that you listen to the people, because there's no better source for good, solid, true feedback than the masses of pickleball players that are playing with every day, right, on the court for hours every day.
Right.
There's no better person to listen to.
Yes, no, for sure. And you know, so it's not always that top level player, or I mean, everybody has a voice, and we listen to everyone because, you know, we listen more to somebody who's buying the paddle than, you know, somebody we're paying or giving a free paddle.
I won't tell them
No,
that.
no, I'm
Good
kidding.
thing we're 45 minutes into this thing.
That's right. They tuned out 20 minutes ago.
I know what you mean. But it's great to have feedback from the top pros, because they'll give you true, honest, good feedback. But then also having that amateur who, you know, they have different feedback because maybe they're not hitting the sweet spot as much. Maybe they're, you know, their paddle is getting beat up more because they, you know, whatever it is. It's good to have that feedback from others, everything. But the fact that you listen to it and put it into this new paddle is cool, and I think that's well appreciated by the crews, and they're going to love it. I think I'm going to love it. I think everyone's going to love it. I think it's going to be a great hit. I really appreciate your time. People love listening to you. We're excited about this paddle. We're going to get it on the court, and we're definitely going to have a review for it soon.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. And again, thank you. And thank for everybody that's listening out there and watching. We appreciate, you know, your business. And hopefully, if you've never tried our Gearbox paddles, look to this one. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. So thank you.
Thanks, Rafael. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Ben. Take it easy.